I feel honored and take this privilege to welcome our first keynote speaker of the session, Mr. Micheal Goldberg. Mr. Goldberg is an experienced venture capitalist and entrepreneur whose teaching is focused on the field of entrepreneurship and early stage finance. Goldberg is an associate professor of design and innovation at the Weatherhead School of Management, and inaugural executive director at the Wheel Institute of Entrepreneurship, Case Western Reserve University. With support from the Burton D. Morgan Foundation, Goldberg created a massive open online course, MOOC, called Beyond Silicon Valley, Growing Entrepreneurship in Transitioning Economies, which has attracted over 175,000 students from 190 countries with subtitles in 16 languages. He's also the author of Beyond Silicon Valley, How Online Course Helped Support Global Entrepreneurs. Goldberg co-founded the Bridge Investment Fund for venture capitalists. He's also been the director of international business development for America Online, responsible for structuring and negotiating international partnerships in Asia, including AOL's joint venture with Lenovo to develop interactive services for China market. Goldberg spent several years in South Africa working for the National Democratic Institute, designing and implementing voter education programs for South Africa's historic first democratic election in 1994. Goldberg also worked for Microsoft and International Management Group. He has deep experience teaching entrepreneurship in international markets. He was awarded Fulbright Fellowship to teach entrepreneurship at the National Economics University in Hanoi, Vietnam, the Polytechnic in Windhoek, Namibia, and the Association Canada de Startups. He has appeared as a frequent guest panelist on MSNBC's Your Business and has written on international entrepreneurship for Forbes, CNBC, Entrepreneur.com, and the list just goes on. So we extend a warm welcome to you, sir. Please deliver your talk. Over to you, sir.
Great. Well, good afternoon, everyone. If I could show you outside my window, we had a huge snowstorm here in Cleveland, where I live. So when this morning Dr. Varsha called me, it was very difficult to walk through they haven't plowed all the streets. So, but I made it to my office to be with you today. So it's great to see you. It's warm in the Zoom room, but it's cold outside. I want to thank Dr. Agarwal for inviting me. Dr. Abhishek, thanks for that awesome intro. Also want to thank Dr. Royshan, Dr. Singh, Dr. Nilkant for putting this great session together. It looks like a lot of you I know some of your lovely faces are here with me in the Zoom room, and then it looks like there's a lot of others in the participant, but let's have this be as interactive as we can. I put my LinkedIn link in the chat. Again, Dr. Agarwal, I'm not sure if everybody can see the chat, but and I put a link to my book, which is free as a PDF download. And I'm happy to share other resources, particularly related to my Beyond Silicon Valley course. I'm excited. Your next speaker, and I know Dr. Agarwal, I don't think you coordinated this. Dr. Hisrick is my friend. He also lives in Cleveland. He also used to teach entrepreneurship at Case Western Reserve University. So tell him I say hello. He's great. He's been a mentor of mine. So you get a lot of Cleveland today. So let me do a screen share. I have a presentation. Hold on. And then, but we're gonna make it interactive, hopefully. Okay. Let's see. One second. Can you give me, Dr. Agarwal, can you see the
It's coming, it's coming,
presentation
sir. It's
mode?
coming perfectly, perfect, sir.
Very nice. Okay. So those are my kids. Does anyone know which country that flag is from? You can put it in the chat if you want.
Participants, you can respond in chat box. We are opening it.
Yeah, this is. Otherwise, I'm going to call on you.
Yes. Yeah. So let's make it interactive and let's welcome our participants so that they can start putting their responses. So sir is asking which country's flag it is. Okay.
Okay,
We are
China,
starting getting
North Korea, Vietnam.
responses.
Thank you, Vijaya. Okay, USA, no. So Vietnam. So, and thanks. This will be fun. Let's use the chat so I don't feel lonely in the snow here. So those are my kids. That was in 2012. And I was on a Fulbright fellowship, which is a US State Department program that sends both faculty from the US and students overseas. We have an active Fulbright program in India, and then Fulbright professors from places like India and students to the US. By the way, it's a great program for those of you that are interested. So I was in Vietnam, and I got a request from the Ministry of Science and Technology in Vietnam. They have the something called the National Agency for Technology, Entrepreneurship, and Commercialization. It's within their one of the government ministries. And they said, would you teach a course about how Vietnam can become more like Silicon Valley? And now another opportunity for great participation. So here's my question to you this evening. You hear this all the time, like people are like, we in Hanoi, we in Mumbai, we in Cleveland, everybody wants to be like Silicon Valley. And let's use the chat again. Why does everyone want to have what Silicon Valley has? What does Silicon Valley have that is so attractive to other communities around the world, whether it's Vietnam, whether it's India? What is so great about Silicon Valley? Okay, innovation, IT, freedom to fail, great point. Capital, thank you, Rajat. Heaven of technology, entrepreneurship, startups, entertainment, technology for tomorrow, opportunities, good vibe, leadership, innovation. This is great. Keep them coming. Future, persistence. Okay, that grit, networking, versatility, R&D, tech, innovation, capital, industry, great. Sustainability, global technology, design, attractive, creativity, cash, cow, love it. Technology and innovation, thinking out of the box, love it. Good atmosphere, freedom to explore, people-centric, global technology, innovation. This is great. Lateral thinking, future, innovative business, love it. There's a market to sell your products, absolutely. New ideas, interaction with best minds. I'll say minds from all over the world. I mean, there's many great companies. Love it. Okay. Indian people, you're right. I mean, go to any coffee shop in Silicon Valley, you will find awesome people from all over the world, including India. Okay, this is great. This is good. I'm glad you guys are there. Sometimes I feel like when we're on Zoom, we're all doing something else. So I'm glad you guys are here and commenting. This is great. Venture capital risk. Okay, all awesome. I mean, I just put a couple, somebody talked about this. I mean, you've got these iconic companies that started in the Valley, Google, Facebook, Apple, and then folks leave these companies and go start something else. So here's another quiz, because you guys are doing such a good job in the chat. These three people have something in common. These three people have something in common. See if you can guess. these three people, it's kind of around, this is around talent. See if we can guess what these three lovely faces, people of the revolution, I like it. Yeah, sort of. They smile. Not, they weren't drop. Okay, this is not, they're not dropouts. They actually attended the same university. Which university did they attend? You're gonna have to quickly Google which university I'm from. Harvard, no. Stanford, no, not Stanford. Wharton, no, I attended there, but where are these? Where do I work? Yale, no. No, still haven't gotten it. Morocco, no. The Weatherhead School, okay, yes, thank you, Subash. Cleveland, yes. So these three lovely people all left Cleveland. They actually all grew up in Cleveland, which is my hometown. They all attended Case Western Reserve University, which is where I work. And they all moved out to San Francisco. John started Apartment List. Hallie Tecco started a company called Rock Health, a healthcare accelerator. And then Matthew Stepka went to work at a little company at the time called Google. So this talent question, and this, I mean, a number of you talked about Indian talent moving to the Valley. Cleveland talent moves and leaves Cleveland. And then lastly, this last column, again, in the chat, what are these? These three are all the same kind of company. What kind of companies are these? VC, thanks. Akshita, there we go, thank you, venture capitalist. So that's where the money is, and a lot of you guys said that, okay. So this is, you know, among the things that Silicon Valley has and that everybody wants. But instead of doing, again, I remember I got this request in Vietnam. They said, would you do a talk about Silicon Valley? I said, let me talk about another community. I don't want to do how Vietnam can become like Silicon Valley. Does anyone want to guess what that city is right there, that picture? You guys didn't know you were going to have to work so much. What city is this? Hanoi? No. Good guess. San Francisco? Nope. California? Nope. Italy? I wish. Seattle? No. Not Ho Chi Minh City. There'd be a lot of people on motorbikes. New York? Nope. Cleveland. Thank you. Harshal. Nailed it. So Cleveland, that's where I am right now. Casablanca, nice try. This is fun. You guys are all just putting in cities where you would like to be in. So it is Cleveland. Thank you. At least a couple of you guys answered that correctly. All right. Who's that? Who is this gentleman? Thank you, Harshal. LeBron James. So a lot of time he's not, what team does he play for now? He doesn't play for Cleveland anymore. Who does he play for now? Thank you, the Lakers. Harshal is an NBA fan. So he was once here. A lot of times when I'm traveling and I say I'm from Cleveland, people are like, oh, LeBron. I'm like, yeah, we had LeBron and he won the championship. It was very exciting. So, but I didn't teach a session about Cleveland because of LeBron. You know, 100 years ago, Cleveland was a very important center of entrepreneurship. So we actually sit. Has anyone ever been to Cleveland on this call? Put in the chat if you've been to Cleveland. I'm guessing not too many of you. Anyone been to Cleveland? Not yet. Okay, well, come visit. You have an invitation. So we were once, you know, a very important city in the entrepreneurship space. We are located in between Pittsburgh and Detroit. I'll put the link to the book shortly again. And, or maybe Dr. Agarwal, you can put it in there while I'm chatting. This is another question for you lovely people. This was our most famous entrepreneur from Cleveland from 100 years ago. Who is it? So maybe he's got something stuck in his ear. Who is this famous? There we go. Rajat, thank you. John D. Rockefeller is from Cleveland, our most famous entrepreneur. So we were 100 years ago, we were doing great. And then our, like a lot of cities, you know, sometimes they refer to like cities like Cleveland or Detroit as the Rust Belt, you know, because we were once having many factories and a lot of our industry left. We were the 5th largest city in the United States in 1920. Does anyone want to guess? Put in the chat what number city we are. I think I have the number from 2010. What number? The book is available on Amazon, but it's free on PDF if you want it. What number city? We were 5th largest. What size in the US city are we now? Another quiz question for you. We were the 5th largest, and now 25, 54. Harshal, you're pretty good here. 47. So a lot of our people left. So like I grew up in Cleveland. I was interested in startups, and I decided to leave because this was not a place to really grow startup companies. All right, we have another quiz question. You guys, there's so much quizzing and so little time. Entrepreneur Magazine in 2001 did a ranking of 61 cities in the United States and how well we supported entrepreneurship. So there were 61 cities surveyed. What number ranking do you think Cleveland got out of 61 and how well we supported entrepreneurship? 5, 1, 52, this is good, 18, 22, 15. I'll wait till someone gets it right. Think bad. 61. Thank you, Umar. There we go. Here's my little graphic. Yeah, not good. Not good. Thank you, Madhu. Thank you, Chikapa. Okay. So, you know, in Silicon Valley, I mean, what I want to talk to you today about is like in Silicon Valley at this point, and there's a whole history of how Silicon Valley relied on government and funding to kind of grow the ecosystem. But at this point, if any of you were pitching out in San Francisco, you would be pitching to private investors about an investment in your company. You know, the government of California or the city of San Francisco isn't involved in funding startups, but in Cleveland or in Northeast Ohio, you had very heavy involvement from government, and we'll talk about that in a second, and donors as well. Okay, so part of the story in Cleveland was really through government support through our provincial government. So as you may know, in the US, we have 50 states. I'm in the state of Ohio, and the state of Ohio, through a program called the Third Frontier, which is a actually $2.3 billion US program focused on commercialization and entrepreneurship. So the state really put a lot of resources against trying to grow entrepreneurship, and we'll talk about how that was implemented. Another area where funding came out of donors and philanthropy. And I'll maybe again go to the chat. You know, we have in the United States there are tax advantages, like for like the largest. Actually, you can put in the chat. What's the largest foundation in the United States? If anyone wants to guess. Bill and Melinda Gates. Thank you. You may have heard of Bill Gates and Melinda Gates from Microsoft. So there's a way they formed, actually with some money from Warren Buffett, the largest foundation. There's a tax benefit in the US to take the money that you make if you want to donate it to NGOs or nonprofits or charities, you put it in a foundation. So the Ford Foundation is actually also large. What are some of the kinds of things that donors and foundations support typically? Just put in the chat. Like what are some of the types of causes or areas that foundations or donors may support? Education, good. Healthcare, poverty, absolutely. Medical research for sure. So these are typical industry, maybe, well, entrepreneurship at Umar Mohanad. So this question is, in innovation, you know, in Cleveland, you had donors begin to say, like, if we don't support entrepreneurship and innovation, there's not going to be people here, you know, even like the arts. We have one of the most wonderful orchestras in the world. And so actually I went Saturday night to the Cleveland Orchestra. And if they don't support things like entrepreneurship and startups and growing new companies, there wouldn't be enough people to go to orchestras here. So donors, through something called the Fund for Our Economic Future, started supporting entrepreneurship as well. So let's talk about NGOs. So why, let's go to the chat again. Why is it necessary at a very high level? Like, why do NGOs exist? Why is it important kind of philosophically? And I know there's a very vibrant NGO community in India. Like, why do you have to create NGOs? For service, good. These are some of the things that NGOs do. Why do NGOs have to exist? All right, bridge the gap in social products. So if you're bridging a gap, which entity is not sufficiently providing these resources? Where's the gap? So it's helping, but like, why do they need to exist? Okay, so government, right? So if government was supporting, right? So government and corporates fail, great. You know, in societies where things are functioning, you have government providing some of this social safety net, and you've got the private sector working to do the work that the private sector does, but there's gaps, right? So NGOs, or nonprofit organizations, we call them in the US, kind of fill the gap. Interestingly, and you can ask Professor Hisrick about this when he comes after me, Bob was actually involved in helping start an NGO in Cleveland called Jumpstart, which was set up, actually it started at Case Western Reserve University and then funds the growth of startup companies. And they actually have a fund out of which money is invested. And interestingly, Jumpstart had invested over 100 companies since its creation, and with an idea of like, if they were successful, then you put money back into the fund. What is it called? This company in 2017 sold for over $1 billion. What's it called when you sell a company for over $1 billion? There's a name for that kind of company. Unicorn, thank you. You guys are good. So there was a unicorn. Oh, you can see it in there. That was our first tech unicorn. Very good, thank you. So NGOs get created to fill a gap. And so we've done that in Cleveland. And in Cleveland, organizations like Jumpstart have money from government and donors, actually, and also the private sector. So let's talk about the role of universities. I mean, I know a number of you are working at universities. Universities can play a very important role in supporting entrepreneurship. I chose one of our great entrepreneurs from Case Western Reserve University. She's originally from India, like a lot of our great entrepreneurs on our campus. Charu Ramanathan is a biomedical engineering PhD that came from India to Case Western Reserve to study. That device that you can see next to her is something to do of monitoring a number of things in the cardiology space. Our university invested in, and sometimes when great researchers come up with technology, that technology then might get licensed out to larger companies, but sometimes it gets created into startups. So Cardio Insight was what's called a spun out of the university. Got money from Jumpstart and from venture capital, and eventually that company was acquired for almost $100 million by Medtronic, which is a large company. So that's a success story. And there's different work that happens on university campuses to support entrepreneurship, sometimes like this, spinning out companies. Let's talk about accelerators. I know that India has a number of accelerators. Does anyone know what some of the famous accelerators, maybe some of the most famous accelerators are in the United States? No guessing in the chat. You guys are so fast usually. What's the most famous accelerator in the US? Airbnb came out of this accelerator. Techstars is one of them. Yeah, Techstars is probably one of the top two. What's the other one that's often referred to? Dropbox came out of this accelerator. AngelPad, I'm not as familiar with. Founder Labs, keep going. Thank you, Y Combinator. Thanks, Shalini. So Y Combinator is a very famous one. In Ohio, the state of Ohio, through the Third Frontier, was funding the formation of an accelerator. Yep, a lot of you guys got Y Combinator. Very good, thank you. So, this question like Y Combinator or Techstars are for-profit private accelerators. I don't know in India what the accelerator landscape and if any of the accelerators are getting money from government or nonprofits, but in Ohio, the accelerators get subsidized here. Let's talk about angel investors and funds. Put in the chat, what is an angel investor? What is an angel investor? Who is an angel investor? It's the definition of an angel investor. Okay, so fundraising. People who fund at initial stage. Thank you, Rajat. And the important thing is people, high net worth, they have a lot of money. They want to stay anonymous. Not necessarily. Some don't want to be anonymous. An investor with no expectations. I mean, that's an interesting point. Not necessarily. A lot of times they want to make money. Sometimes maybe not. Good. These are very good. So in Ohio, the North Coast Angel Fund, they actually changed their name recently to North Coast Ventures, is subsidized by the state. So what is an angel fund, if anybody knows what that is? What's the difference between an angel investor, who's an individual, and an angel fund? You want to put that in the chat. It's an angel fund. So huge funds given to them by, one is public and the other private. No, they're usually both private. What else? What other guesses might you have? What's an angel fund? And why is an angel fund? Why would the state of Ohio, why would the government of Ohio get involved in helping encourage to form an angel fund? What's the difference between the crowdfunding platform? Not exactly. It's a little bit different. Let's keep guessing. So a large, more money pooled together. So you're onto something. So it's bringing together a bunch of individual angels put together. It kind of operates like a venture capital fund, though usually as a manager, like-minded investors. These are all good. So the idea is that if you put a fund together, a dedicated fund, like if we were all, let's say we were having the Jane Angel Network, and we would have, you know, Dr. Varsha, in addition to putting together great conferences, has got a startup and she's pitching us. So we would hear her pitch. Maybe some of us would invest, maybe some of us wouldn't, but we're making a decision as individual angels. If we came together as a fund and we had a fund manager, typically funds will put, you know, you're basically investing into the fund. It's a more professionally managed approach, and they're going to actually invest in more companies. So in Ohio, there is incentives from the state to put money in an angel fund. We can talk more about that. So this is different. You know, if you're an angel investor in California, there's no tax incentive or government incentive to put investing. You're just investing to make money. So now let's talk about venture capital. So the Ohio Capital Fund, and they've an investor in my venture capital fund. Where do you think the Ohio Capital Fund gets their money? Who's the investor in the Ohio Capital Fund? Which kind of entity? Angel investors? Nope. Public, yes. So government is an investor, in this case, the state of Ohio, in the Ohio Capital Fund. Do you think that the state of California has a California Capital Fund where the government of California is investing, in this case, in venture capital funds in California? Do you think? So no, they don't need to, right? The venture capital funds have plenty of money, but in Ohio, why do you think in Ohio, the government of Ohio felt like they needed to set up a $150 million fund to invest in Ohio-based venture capital funds? Why would the government of Ohio do that? So lack of funding by VCs. They want to encourage entrepreneurship. Keep going, good. Public involvement, but why? Scarcity of investors, yes. So, you know, venture funds are not, in Ohio, don't have enough what we call limited partner investors. So this idea that the government needs to be involved and invest in Ohio-based funds or attracting funds to Ohio. By the way, this Ohio Capital Fund was not renewed by the governor because he felt like the new governor was like, no, there's enough money here. So these are interesting questions, like how much involvement should government have? Dr. Varsha, can I ask, I just want to do a time check. How am I doing for time?
Yes, sir.
How much time do we still have together?
Yes, sir. 20 more minutes you can take, sir. Not a problem.
20 more fun-filled minutes together. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm just looking at my clock. Okay. Okay. So here's a discussion question, and we can put it in the chat as well. I mean, this is essentially what I was talking about. Like, why should government be involved? Why not just let the markets decide, like they are in Silicon Valley? And how is this working in India? And maybe what we'll do is I'll just continue on and put your thoughts in the chat on this, because I'm curious how this is working in India, or how you think it should be working. Should government be more involved in places like Cleveland or India, or should government be focused on other priorities? I mean, particularly given the global pandemic, there's a lot of government priorities at the moment. So think about this and put your comments in the chat. So back to like my Vietnam. So this was, it's funny because it was 10 years ago. So this is, actually this, you can tell I was ahead of the curve. This is the head of the Ohio Third Frontier at the time, Lisa Delp, on Skype. We remember Skype. You guys probably remember Skype. And this is just like you guys, that was the morning in Ohio, evening in Hanoi. So I was doing a conference where people were joining, like Lisa, via Skype. So after that conference, which was a week long, I brought different people in. We took a picture afterwards. And it's funny, like I had never really taught a seminar about like entrepreneurial ecosystem development. And, but I did that in Vietnam. And then I came back to the US, and one of my deans, I was telling him about this seminar, and he asked if I was interested in teaching a MOOC. Does anybody know what MOOC stand for? I want to put in the chat. What does MOOC stand for? If anybody knows. Massive open online course, exactly. So it's funny. So I had never heard of a MOOC. This was 2013. So I Googled it after I left his office. And then I ended up putting together, as the person who introduced me mentioned, we put together a MOOC, and these are like I did it kind of like documentary style. And I can also put in the chat, you can see it on Coursera, but I have all the videos on YouTube as well. And it was interesting. Like I didn't know if people would be very interested. We did a case study, kind of like I walked you through today of Cleveland, and we weren't sure if anybody would be interested, but we had a lot of people from around the world. And let me just quickly talk about a couple of the collaborations we had, and then with the remaining 15 minutes, we can have questions. It was funny, Greece, which at that time was sort of going through a financial crisis, was like very interested in the Cleveland story. We were doing lots of sessions, kind of like this, where we were sharing ideas. We were arguing with each other in a good way about, some of the topics we covered today. I went to Greece at the kind of the ancient agora. We were having discussions about supporting entrepreneurship. A very small new country called Kosovo. They were very interested in what we were doing. I ended up going to Kosovo to visit. There's my friend Fatos wearing his LeBron jersey. Iran, which is not a place that the US has a lot of collaboration with, they were very interested in the MOOC, and we have subtitles in 16 different languages. So this was somebody from Iran who was excited about the course. I'm probably going to pronounce it wrong, Uttarakhand. Did I pronounce that correctly, Dr. Varsha? Maybe close?
Yes, sir. It's correct.
Okay. Close-ish. So Dr. Ajit Nigam who was a professor based in Uttarakhand, put together a bunch of collaborations and meetups around the course. That was a lot of fun. I did put a link to the book. So, it's been fun. Like, we're kind of like this. I'm having a lot of discussions. It's crazy that the class has been up since 2014. And I'll stop sharing my screen now. Yeah, so I've traveled all over the world. I've never been to India, so maybe some of you lovely people can invite me post-pandemic. I can come.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. We would love to, sir.
You guys in person. I've always wanted to go. It's funny. India is probably is the big missing place. I was invited a number of times, but I've never been able to come. So anyway, with that, let me pause and see what questions you guys have with the remaining.
Yeah, so now I would request all our participants, if you have any questions for our speakers, please start posting in our Q&A box. And by that time, I have first question, which I'll take it for you, sir, with your permission.
Sure.
Yeah, so first question is from Dr. Muhammad Shani. How do you view the recent advancement of China in technology and entrepreneurship as compared to USA? Will they ever surpass in the race?
It's a great question. Thank you, Dr. Hanif. So I was privileged, and I worked on a joint venture for America Online with Lenovo, and starting in like 1999, 2000. So we met with Jack Ma. I kind of watched the initial rise of the internet and technology activity in China kind of firsthand. Obviously, China is putting a lot of resource into growing their homegrown technology industry. And it's impressive. I mean, there's a lot that is happening there. I still feel like the US, and obviously without getting into the politics, like, one of the things that makes the United States so great as an innovative entrepreneurial economy is actually attracting the best and the brightest talent from other countries. So to me, something like, 40% of venture-backed startups in San Francisco, Silicon Valley were started by immigrants. We have unbelievable talent from places like India and other parts of the world. Under President Trump, it became more difficult for immigrants to come here. Even now that we've changed administrations and we're welcoming more people here and making it easier for talent to stay, the pandemic has made it very challenging. So one thing that I think is part of the US secret sauce is immigrant talent, and China doesn't really have that. It's a more insular approach. They've attracted some foreign talent, but anyway, that's one comment I would make.
Thank you so much, sir,
Sure.
for your valuable input. The next question comes is, how has Vietnam promoted women successfully?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while since I've been to Vietnam, although I've continued to follow it. Actually, I was supposed to go to Vietnam the summer of 2020 with my daughter, who was doing an interesting project. She's now a freshman at Duke University in North Carolina, but she did a project in high school about a female entrepreneur that used to, I can put a link to it in the chat, who used to sell chicken in our neighborhood. And actually she interviewed a number of people that are supporting female entrepreneurs. I mean, I think the reality is, whether it's Vietnam, whether it's the US, I don't know much about support of female entrepreneurship in India. We as a world, certainly as a country in the US, have a long way to go. I think part of it is seeing more female venture capitalists Oftentimes, investors invest in people that look like them. So if you have, at least in the US, a lot of white male venture capitalists, they're going to invest in white male entrepreneurs. So we're seeing some of that cycle change. We do obviously have a lot of very successful South Asian, Indian entrepreneurs and investors in the US. Actually, I have a call this afternoon with one of our alums from our university who's been a really successful Indian. She came to the US. I mean, I think this story, and many of you know it well, we attract a talented graduate student to come to the US, to Case Western Reserve. I think somebody was asking about how do you get to Harvard Business School. I'm not sure. I was rejected by Harvard Business School, so I can't tell you myself. And then, keeping this talent in the US. And, I think the other thing, and many of you may have relatives in the US, I mean, just seeing people keeping a foot in the US and keeping a foot in a place like India is really important.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question comes from our own professor from our campus, Dr. Seema Sambagi. While regenerative and green ventures are on the wish list of the entire humanity, do you see them becoming viable and profitable in the near future?
Dr. Varsha, can you repeat the first part?
Should I read the question again?
What was the first part of the question?
Yeah. While regenerative and green ventures are on the wish list.
Sorry, yeah. No. Sorry, I thought that's what you said.
No.
Yeah, I mean, very important topic, sustainability. I think, to me, when green ventures are making money, I mean, if you look up, Impossible Foods is an interesting case study in the US. The company was started with a focus on sustainability. These are plant-based meat. You're seeing, returns-focused capital go into companies. And, they might also have an interest in sustainability. I think at the end of the day, it's very critical because these are companies, not nonprofits. You need to see investors need to make money. Perhaps they're willing to make a little bit less money because of the social impact, but at the end of the day, you need to make money. And I think we're starting to see it in the US.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question comes from Mr. Yogesh Jain, one of our participants. Seed funding is also very common in India, but yet success rate is very less. Do you want to make any comment? Possible reasons?
Yeah, no, thanks for the question, Yogesh. I don't know enough about India to know. Some of it just may be the maturity of the market. I mean, certainly from things that I've read, and we actually have an alum from Case Western Reserve named Vikram Gupta from a fund called AVLOKAN Ventures. He's been pretty prolific investor, investing at the early stage. So I don't know, maybe it's timing. I don't know a lot about the Indian market, so I can't say really from a comparison point of view, but perhaps the Indian time will come, but I don't know enough to really answer.
Yeah, sure, sir. Thank you for your input, sir. The next question comes from our participant, Dr. Zahid Bhat. How you see the human resource component in emerging? He means to say the changed role of HR in emerging startups in India.
Sure. So, I mean, maybe I'll even broaden the question, although maybe you weren't asking it. I mean, the reality of remote work is changing, it's changing the world. I mean, the fact that we're all sitting here, with pretty good internet connections on a conference today, or that some of you could be applying for a job with Twitter or Google or some startup based in the US, I think is really turning how we think about talent upside down. I mean, there are companies now that are fully distributed, which means there is no headquarters. So there's a company like called Automatic, which owns WordPress. So if you're, I know we have 546 participants. I'm guessing it's a nice mix of professors and students and others. Like, it's a really, the pandemic, which has been such a disaster on so many levels for so many of us in our countries, like, I think is changing talent market. Not that there wasn't, outsourced talent in places like India working for multinationals before, but it's really accelerated. So I think it's a really interesting time for talent. The fact, hey, there's something about the experience. Like, I know somebody put in the chat about like, how can they come study in the US? Like, whether you're coming to Case Western Reserve or to Harvard Business School, like, and I love travel and I love the experience. As much as Zoom has been good and we're chatting and we're, it's not the same. In 2 minutes, I'm going to click goodbye and I'm going to be back to my snowy Cleveland. I would love nothing more than, well, you guys might not like the snow very much, but it'd be fun to like have you go have a snowball fight together outside my office and get to know each other and work together and do research together and study together. Like that, there's no substitute for that. Sharing a meal together, but it's clear that strong internet connections, tools like Zoom are changing talent. So yeah.
With your permission, can I take a few more questions? Because our participants are quite excited and I'm getting so many questions. So the next question comes from a participant, Mr. Ravi Shankar N. How to start social entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think there's this question, like we do some work here at Case Western Reserve. We have something called the Fowler Center for Business as an Agent of World Benefit. And the idea, like social entrepreneurship, you could try to address a social issue through starting an NGO and getting the Gates Foundation to fund you, or you can start a business, right? So I think that's a really interesting decision point for social entrepreneurs. Are you trying to solve the problem with a business, or are you trying to solve the problem with an NGO? And there's a lot of enthusiasm around. There's a growing enthusiasm to try to solve it with a business. It doesn't always work. So I think that's the first question that you have to ask. Like, what's the best way? Can you solve this with a product or service in the market? Because that's not always the answer.
So I'll take from a participant, Shweta Verma. What is the most challenging issue for an entrepreneur, especially in the global context, keeping abreast of culture and ethics in the present scenario?
Yeah, there's so many challenges to entrepreneurs. Again, I'm assuming with 549 people on here, some of you are entrepreneurs. Most startups fail. And there's a variety of reasons they fail. Lack of capital, lack of experience with the team, market isn't there, not really understanding the customer. I think for those of us that, I know there's a lot of faculty on here. For those of us that work at universities, we're here to support students in their entrepreneurial journey. And frankly, even if those of you that are thinking about starting businesses, start them and it doesn't work out and you go work at a large company, like there's a lot of value to going on the startup journey, even if it fails. But I don't think there's one most challenging. There's so many challenges, and for those of you that are either on the entrepreneurial journey or have taken it, it's very difficult, and some of you may be parents how do you balance all these things? It's like very challenging. Oftentimes it's like you're leaning into a spouse, for those of you that are married, to like, it's hard to have two entrepreneurs in a family. Like you might need your spouse to have a more steady, less crazy job to lean into your startup dreams.
Thank you so much, sir, for your inputs. I'll just take one last question with your kind permission.
Sure.
The question is from Mr. Arun Chandran. ESG has been gaining much traction these days with governments and for more greener world. Now, these models are usually put forward for more costlier way of working. Can startups sustain for long term with these costs?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean,
should I repeat it, sir?
I think that there's an appreciation from investors that care about sustainability, that perhaps the return on investment as measured by financial return might be a bit less. We often talk about double bottom line or triple bottom line. I mean, I think part of the challenge and the opportunity for sustainable startups, green startups, is like convincing, you have to convince your investor that this thing's going to work, and that the dream can be successful, but also that they may see impact across financial returns, but also, in some of these other areas.
Correct. So with this, we come to this end of this session. So thank you so much, sir, for such an engaging discussion. And it's been indeed a pleasure listening to your words of wisdom. And thank you for conferring your constructive views and enlightening us with entrepreneurship thoughts. It's been indeed a privilege to listen to your valuable ideas. Thank you once again, sir. And I especially love the way in this joined us and the way you have kept engaging our participants. It's highly appreciable. Thank you so much, sir. Oh my God.
There's the view of some snow. If anybody wants to go have a snowball
You can
fight.
just show it for participants for a few seconds. So this is the weather in which sir has joined us.
It's cold.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Come visit me, but bring your warm clothes.
Correct.
And we'll have a snowball fight.
Sure, sir. I would love to, sir. We are all just waiting for this pandemic to get ended.
I know, that's true. Me too. I'm ready to start traveling.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So
We're
thank
good.
you
We'll
so
say
much.
say hi to Professor Hisrick for me.
Yes, sir. We are just waiting for him. I request you to stay so that we all of us can interact with him. Just give us a few minutes.
Okay, actually, I'll stay on. I can stay. Let me just check my.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Thank you so much.
For a second, so I can say hi to him.
Yes,
it's funny
sir.
because
Sure.
we're both in Cleveland, but it takes
no problem, sir. Our pleasure, sir. Dr. Shiva?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session. And dear participants, at this moment, let me brief this lovely crowd with our 9 days journey, which began with paper presentations on 3 subsequent days, 10th, 11th, and 12th of January, followed by yesterday's event. Yesterday, we had with us our keynote speakers, Gary Stewart, CEO and founder of Founder Tribes, inaugural lecturer of entrepreneurship at Yale University, UK. And he spoke on the topic Beyond Silicon Social Impact from 7 to 8 p.m. And this session was followed by another enlightening session by Dr. Amrit Lal Bharadwaj, professor at Cardiff Business School, UK, from 8 to 9 p.m. And we are quite happy to let you know that Dr. Hisrich is here with us. So can all of us welcome him once?
Hey Bob.
Welcome to you, sir.
Hey Bob, it's Michael Goldberg. I warmed up the audience for you. You're on mute. You're on mute, Bob.
Sir, you can unmute yourself.
I am.
Oh, there you are.
Yep. Well, thank you very much for doing that, Michael. We should get together sometime.
I know, it's so funny. I was just saying to these guys, it takes two friends sitting in the same city, but we have to meet up on a Zoom in India.
That, you know, everything happens, and that's what's so fun about it. But I'm still in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm coming. My flight got canceled, and so we have a foot of snow out where I live. And
Well, it's funny. I just showed Bob. I just showed these guys. This is what you're coming back to.
Yes, I know.
Well, it's great to see you. Enjoy the session. These guys are, for 550 participants, they're very interactive. So
These are only in Zoom. Our major audience is on Facebook. We are live, sir.
Okay.
So this is the Zoom capacity we host, and the rest of our majority of the crowd is watching us live on Facebook.
Oh, good. Well, it's funny. Hey, Bob, I even teed up a little bit about Jumpstart in my presentation. So there's a nice arc between you and your impact on entrepreneurship at Case Western Reserve in Northeast Ohio. So I'm throwing the cricket ball to you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I'm glad Jumpstart did so well. When we started it, I just knew it was right for the city and the area. So I was very happy that we got it started, and then it got even bigger and better.
Absolutely. All right. I will say goodbye. Good luck getting back here, and look forward to seeing you, Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Michael, so much.
Thanks,
Thank you, Mr.
everybody. See ya.
Thank you,
Good,
sir.
we welcome you, Dr. Robert